I'm living in a little hyper Bitcoinized world right now. I have no need for anything except for Bitcoin and the layers built on top of it. And that's like the only reason why all this crypto stuff exists, is to replace the existing financial system with one that actually makes sense. I have an opinion that Bitcoin's a better money for the world. So if I'm not living by that opinion, like, my opinion's a fraud, I feel like. There is a certain magic of spending Bitcoin at all-time highs. And I've had a few of those days just lately. It's like, dude, my eggs used to be this cost in sats, and now it's this. That's the promise of Bitcoin, end of story. That's why we're here. Everybody knows that social media is toxic. It's like maybe flawed from the beginning. The legacy platforms, they're dependent on ads. So that means they want to keep you on the screen as long as they can, so they can shove you as many ads so you're the product. And now, with Nostr, there's all these different apps that you can use, and none of them have ads yet. They may in the future, but we can take what we've learned from the legacy platforms and build products that aren't just going to be feeding on you, that make you the product.
All right, today I have the pleasure of being joined by Paul Keating on the show. Paul, thanks so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Yes, sir. And I'm sorry for your time on Friday last week. Completely blew you off. Thought the podcast was at 6. I was like offline surfing, doing yoga. Then I get to my phone and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just completely spoofed the time zone. Whoops. But anyways, happy to be here.
Here we are. Yeah. And no need to apologize. And I appreciate you taking the time to be here regardless. So, this is our take 2. We had a bit of technical difficulties in the beginning, but kind of, as I was going into my first question, I was talking about that usually when I start the podcast, I like to kind of start at the beginning of someone's Bitcoin journey. And that can be at different stages in people's lives. But when I was doing research for this podcast, one thing that stood out to me and was also a personal interest and fascinating thing, I think, to discover before kind of getting into Bitcoin is your passion around surfing and kind of how that has shaped and molded you also as a person. So I'd love, kind of before we get into more of the Bitcoin stuff, if you could talk a bit about, what surfing means to you and how it's, impacted your life.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, surfing's completely been my North Star post school. I grew up, it was just baseball in school. Life was perfect in this little box. Go play baseball, do as best I could, finish school. And then about 13, I caught my first wave. And I was like, oh my God, I knew right away as I went down the line of the wave, like I was hooked for life. And since then, since I got done with school, surfing's definitely been my North Star. It's definitely the question to what can you not stand not doing? So like, I have so much FOMO when I'm not in the water. And since then, it like has basically, it's the reason why I'm down in Costa Rica now. And I kind of came to the conclusion, like, I can't stand not surfing. If I was a billionaire, if I made it already, I would be surfing every day in warm water with cool people, with a group of friends, and chasing it. And like, It's brought me all around the world. Just like, it's such a fun excuse to go travel and go see a new location. It's gotten me a whole, it's like a great networking tool as well. You go to a place, you hop in the water, you see friends that can surf. And if they're good, you can tell they've been around and, you're instantly friends. You're connected. It's like a common language. So yeah, and it's the best morning routine as well. You get in the water, you get morning sun, you get exercise, you get some salt, you get community, and you just get froth and fun. And so it's just, it's really, it's like everything for me at this stage of my life.
Yeah, and it sounds amazing, and being there in Costa Rica, being able to surf there in the waters every morning sounds sounds like the best way to start your day, honestly. And I think that's amazing, and it's kind of, as you mentioned, also having this joy in your life around surfing and this passion. You mentioned even if you were a billionaire, that's still what you would want to be doing in your mornings. What specifically was it that kind of drew you to surfing, the sport itself? Because I think, growing up, there's people do a lot of sports. People tend to be driven to sports for one reason or another. But what was it specifically about surfing that really drew you into it?
Yeah, so it was like I said, it was like the second love. Baseball is the first. but there's something, it's just magic. Like the feeling of being one with nature on the wave. There's probably not even a better expression of that. Like surfing might be the best expression of it because each wave is unique. So each ride is unique, except for wave pools, but in the ocean. Um, and it's just, yeah, this feeling that's kind of hard to describe. And the fact that you can get better at it for like forever. I mean, Kelly Slater's, he's still competing at the top level and he's 53 or 54 now. It's really inspiring. So, and there's so many different waves to try and master. So it's just, I like having something that I can continually strive to get better at. And it's
Hmm.
constantly testing me. It's constantly humbling me. It's constantly something fun to do every single day that, yeah, gets me out of bed. So
Yeah.
all of that.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. And I think we definitely just jumped a few steps ahead of kind of your story, I think, and everything that has led you up to that point to be surfing in Costa Rica. I want to shift back because I think we'll kind of come back to this eventually. But I think what's important why I wanted to preface that is because I think, your love of surfing and your love of being outdoors and being around people that you care and love, I think led you to Costa Rica. And I think there's obviously also a journey a bit before that, and also now, what you're doing with your various ventures. I'd love to kind of now shift towards a bit your story as to how you describe your Bitcoin journey. And again, like this doesn't have to be the moment that you discover Bitcoin, but more like what was the moment where, or something that primed you leading up to discovering Bitcoin, where you would kind of mark the start of your Bitcoin journey?
Like many people, the prime was fear. The prime was, holy crap, I can make a lot of money real quick.
Mhm.
And then the real thing that primed me though was, an actual like health problem. So right around 24, right when I was getting done with my graduate school degree, I literally just, I got sick. I couldn't walk. I had a low fever for a month, and it was like 3 months in bed. So it was like, this I was about to graduate, go take over the world, go surf the world, really. What I wanted to do was just be a surf instructor, be a bum, and just like run around the world and teach surfing and see new waves and new places and adventure.
Mhm.
But universe, whatever, put a big halt on that. And I'm really grateful for this kid, this guy in grad school towards the end. I remember he showed me this Ethereum flash drop, and I'd kind of been into trading and whatever stuff, or, learning about the stock market and stuff. And I saw this big dip and then it went right back up because of some flash crash. I was like, oh, crypto. Okay, interesting. So right when I got done with school, I get sick and I'm in bed and I'm learning like, how the heck am I supposed to make any money if my
Mhm.
body's taken away from me? So I got into Bitcoin and I understood compound interest. So I told myself I would never sell the Bitcoin that I bought with my little bit of grad money that grandma gave me. And so instantly I became majority Bitcoin, or like all Bitcoin from day one.
Okay.
And then it was 2017 and we had that. I was a genius. Went to 20K in December. And I'm like, trading a little shit coins and whatnot, never selling the Bitcoin. And then it kind of forces you down the rabbit hole.
Mhm.
And that rabbit hole is quite deep.
Yeah.
But I am very grateful for that time on the couch because that's when I got to start the journey. I don't know if I would have had time to just sit down and start really thinking about things and learning and finding things that I'm actually interested in, because the whole time I was in school, you just get spoon fed an education and you're just creating for only a professor,
Mhm.
which I look back, it's like, it's retarded. But
Mhm.
in some ways, especially for business degrees, like, come
Yeah.
on, go make a business. But yeah, I'm grateful for that time. And it just sent me down to start learning deeper. And I think I kind of had this accelerated path because I was like majority Bitcoin right away.
Yeah. And that's
And I
really
learned a lot.
interesting.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting, I think. Well, first, I want to touch a bit more on the sickness that you had when you were kind of first discovering Bigger, and you kind of built a big passion around surfing and kind of gearing towards making that also your life's work and being able to, as you mentioned, be a surf instructor and use that also as your way to earn money. When you had this kind of, I believe you said it was autoimmune disorder, right?
Yeah. some
Yeah.
sort of autoimmune disorder. We don't know exactly what it was. It could flare up again. But
Okay.
yeah.
And when because I think that's also a moment, I'm sure, of profound self-reflection in that sense, where you're so used to being able to do this thing that you love that you kind of want to also build your life around, and then a fork kind of gets put in that plan, and you now have time to reflect and think, and also I'm sure you're also worried about what are my next steps, how is this going to affect me. Um, what was that time period like for you, and what were maybe some of the other thoughts going through your mind at that point?
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up. It was actually like a complete ego death. It
Mm.
was horrible. Like, yeah, 24 degrees, whatever, ready to go take over the world. Boom, on mom and dad's couch. Super grateful for my parents for taking care of me that time. Super grateful to have a family that could take care of me like that. But it was complete ego death. Um, I had formed my entire identity around being this guy who's super athletic, you know, baseball in college, surfer. That was who I am. And having that completely taken away from me, I even lost 20 pounds from what I am now. I had no weight to lose and I lost 20 pounds. It was just like a stick. And it was incredible. And it gave me a real like perspective on how quick things can change and what's important. And actually, even school taught me something. My graduate degree was in organizational psychology. That's like business psychology. It's the study of how to make work not suck, is how I like one guy who puts it. And I came to the realization that my whole life, that people work, and it's like their whole life. It affects how they go to bed and what they think about all day. It's a lot, and it really might. It's going to take up a lot of your well-being and everything, like what you decide to work on. So basically, getting done with this degree completely terrified me from just getting any job too. So it kind of sent me on this path to just like, yeah, go start thinking for myself and everything. And then the second piece of that, when I was on the couch, it started me on this health journey. I had never started to question health. And I would just I was just fit, It was like, go eat your spinach in the college cafe and go eat as much protein as you could and, you know, have your protein powder, have your protein bars, and you'll be good. Get your macros or whatever. Um, and it also started me down this health journey. I started to take like my blood tests. Like I started to eliminate foods to see like what the heck could have just set me off on this. And that got me curious. And a lot of that discovery and searching and that time that I used, I've started to make a little bit of a career out of that as well. Like I'm in the health space a bit. I have a lot of friends in the health space. I used to work in the health space. Um, and it's just crazy to see how that time alone on the couch thinking shaped me more than my 6 years in college,
Hmm. Yeah.
which is wild. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can imagine that. And I think um, I mean, maybe I guess it's hard to perceive at the time, right? When you are, especially when you're young and when you're active and you want to be doing things, and then you're kind of ridden to a bed, and you have this time to think. And I guess it was at that time. I mean, maybe you didn't realize it at that point, but maybe it was also a blessing in disguise to really be able to kind of take a step back and rethink certain things around your health, around where you want to go in your life. I know for me also, when you kind of graduate college is also a pretty foundational period in your life, because you kind of go from this structured school where you are kind of just following what you need to do, but you still have elements of freedom because you're not tied to a 9 to 5, and then you kind of get tossed into the real world, and it's like, oh, okay, now what? And I
Yeah, exactly.
think,
Now what?
yeah, exactly.
It's a
And
good
so,
bubble to be in. Like it was a lot of fun. Made a lot of
yeah,
friends, but it's a
exactly,
bubble.
and it is, and there's a lot of good benefits to it. But I think that first year also for me was quite a struggle getting out of it, and I think um, a big thing of kind of what you touched on as well is, I think, growing up, going to school, you get programmed on certain ways of thinking, certain ways of doing things. Especially college doesn't teach you how to think, it teaches you what to think, right? It doesn't teach you, to kind of to question things for yourself, to like you did kind of with also your health journey, right? You kind of then took a step back and analyzed, okay, what am I eating? How is that affecting me? How is it affecting my blood? All those things.
Hmm.
Um, so I think also, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I think when most people, when you come to Bitcoin, because it's such a new system, it's something that's completely unheard of before, in the sense, you know, you have old equivalents like gold, if you're thinking about just like a sound money perspective. And obviously there's technologies like the internet that kind of, you know, Bitcoin is very multidisciplinary and combines a lot of different areas of life. But I think in order to accept and to understand Bitcoin, I think you also need to have an openness to be open to learn new things and to have new ways of thinking. So do you feel like that time period, because it also kind of gave you, you know, time and space to step back and to question some of the things that maybe before you didn't really, you know, take time to think about? Do you think that also kind of helped you to then later on be able to understand Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, it was just a complete curriculum replacement, right?
Mm,
So now I got this other thing to study, and it leads you through so many other rabbit holes. Um, yeah, is it's like the perfect thing to happen at that time. Super grateful.
yeah. And so, you know, you mentioned that you had the friend who had kind of the Ethereum stuff, and then you went into Bitcoin, and then were trading, you know, shitcoins a bit. How, because I think a lot of people, when you enter the space, it can be overwhelming because there's a bunch of different bells and whistles. And if you don't know really the theory behind Bitcoin or why it's valuable, it can also be easy to become distracted by those other things. So was it something that when you were learning about Bitcoin, what made it obvious to you at the time that this was the one that you needed to hold and not the one that you needed to trade?
Well, the number go up meme is incredibly powerful.
Hmm.
And that number go up meme is the reason why I'm here now. It gave me the balls to just leave it behind. Because it's
Yeah.
like to leave everything to go pursue something that's actually important and that I actually want and that actually sounds like a fun life for me. The number go up meme. Like if you have this thing that's so valuable and you have this price, this purchasing power, like guess or whatever in the future, like how would you live your life today? And that's like the most powerful thing. And then yeah, the everything else is a complete distraction. Like I was in the ICOs, Ripple.
Mhm.
Like I held Ripple from like less than 20 cents to whatever it was in 27 or like 240 or something like that. I was like, no, it's going to $10. And it's like,
Mhm.
it's hilarious how it's all happening again today. And it seems like such a complete distraction. That's exactly what it is. Like I'm living in a little hyper Bitcoinized world right now. I have no need for anything except for Bitcoin and the layers built on top of it. And that's like the only reason why all this crypto stuff exists is to replace the existing financial system with one that actually makes sense, taking lessons we've learned from gold and digitalizing it. Like, what is the point of everything else? There's so many people in the world that are suffering from not having sound money. Um, and now we have it. Like, let's stay focused and keep doing these podcasts and keep teaching people to, yeah, stray away from that, all those other distractions. But it's cool that here I get to actually walk the walk instead of just philosophize. Like I have
Yeah.
$0 in my bank account. You know, it's fun.
That's amazing. Well, talk
Yeah.
talk a bit about that, because I think, of course, for listeners who may not be familiar with your story, you're living in Costa Rica at the moment, and in exactly kind of this Bitcoin community. I believe it's called Bitcoin Jungle, right?
hmm
Um, can you tell my listeners a bit about what exactly that is, and how are you even able to live on Bitcoin there?
Oh, it's simple. But yeah, I'll give you the walk there because it's not simple. Like I remember watching Andreas Antonopoulos saying he's living off just Bitcoin in the like in 2018 or something. I was like, dude, how are you doing that? That must be so hard. But here I am, and he was like one of my heroes, you know. And like it's cool to put this stuff into practice. Like I have an opinion that Bitcoin's a better money for the world. So if I'm not living by that opinion, like my opinion's a fraud. I feel like.
Hmm.
But anyway, so here in Bitcoin Jungle, it was a fork of the Bitcoin Beach wallet. We got this custodial Bitcoin Jungle app that a guy down here, an expat from the States, coded up and made. And it started in a farmer's market, the whole kind of movement during the COVID times. It was, yeah, they orange pilled the creator of the farmer's market, the founder of the farmer's market. And then sooner or later, they had all the merchants started accepting Bitcoin. And at the beginning, and this is the key piece, there was not too much of a risk for holding Bitcoin because he would offer to cash people out on the spot
Mm.
for the Bitcoin. So there wasn't much risk. And now we have a digital tool for that. everybody in Costa Rica has this thing called SynPay, which is a phone account or phone number linked to a bank account. So right away when they receive the Bitcoin, they can choose to sell it, and selling it would be less fee than if they got like a point of sale, like a Visa
Yeah.
card. So it's like there's no risk to holding the Bitcoin. But anyways, yeah, it started at the farmers market. Then like the movement went to the other farmers markets, and then some boots on the ground here, just kind of going around and like slowly spreading the word. And now I'm not kidding. I can live my entire life off of Bitcoin here. Restaurants,
That's amazing.
yeah, the farmers market. I try to support the farmers markets with as much like Bitcoin as like spend the Bitcoin there because it's just like so pure, directly
Yeah.
supporting the farmers with the best money. Um, and then also just being able to offload the Bitcoin for the people who don't accept it yet. And I always like to show them like, here's how easy it is. You could buy and sell with SynPay. And that was from Bull Bitcoin, that team that built that off ramp. But the on and off ramps are really important.
Yeah.
But yeah, the flow is, so I have some Lightning wallets. Bitcoin Jungle is a Lightning and Bitcoin on-chain wallet. People can receive Bitcoin on-chain and just spend it as Lightning. It's kind of just seamless, and that's like kind of wallet of Satoshi style. And yeah, everywhere around, like some people have actual physical point of sale devices that are Bitcoin only. Some people just have like point of sales on their phone. Um, and it's pretty cool. And we've been
That's
spending Bitcoin since about 20K here, and now it's at 116 or whatever it is. So the meme is kind of spread. This is a cool option to start saving money. And
yeah.
the Costa Ricans are already familiar with having two accounts, one in colones, the local fiat, and one in dollars. And the dollars would be like their savings account. But, dollars are just slowly inflating away too. So we introduced this third thing, which has the potential to go up in purchasing power. So it's just kind of like, okay, let's use that as savings instead. And then
Hmm.
there's times if they need to sell it, they can sell it right away. So
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
That's incredible. And I love that movement. And I think it's amazing because, I'm living in Barcelona at the moment, and the options here are far and few between of being able to, live on Bitcoin. I mean, you can do the kind of fiat game where you have to get some type of Bitcoin, but then it still has to be a Visa card or something where you then have to send the Bitcoin through like a bit refill or something like that.
Yeah.
But you're still kind of using the fiat ramps, let's say, versus like in Costa Rica, you're actually able to just from your Lightning wallet be able
Yeah.
to pay someone for goods and services, which is amazing. And I think also what's inspiring about that is kind of as you mentioned, the boots on the ground movement, where it did start with one individual, and then it kind
Yep.
of created this movement towards the broader community. And especially because it's from as you mentioned, you were spending it from 20K up until now, like the impact that I can imagine that it also has on the locals must be pretty profound, right? Did you also notice, like, because I guess it's one thing to know about Bitcoin, but it's another thing to participate in and to accept Bitcoin, to pay in Bitcoin. Like, do you also notice shifts in the community of how maybe some of the people who actually accept Bitcoin payments, how it's also impacting their lives?
Yeah, slight smiles all around. They're all like, "Yeah, Bitcoin guy. Yeah, I'll take your Bitcoin." Um, and there's a lot of us down here. Um, there's one guy, we told his story, and I have a film coming out about this. It's actually like we were going to do like a 5-minute little hit piece documentary, and it turned into an entire film, like an hour and 20 minutes,
Amazing. Mm.
about like the story of Bitcoin Jungle. And it goes into the story of the founders of the farmers markets, and kind of goes into like why fiat's bad, and maybe why it's the root cause of inequality in all of Central America. And yeah, it goes deep. I'm really excited to release that to the world. It's called Hummingbird. Don't know when we'll
Mhm.
release that though. But yeah, one other story was just like this guy just bought a car with Bitcoin. He
Mm.
sells eggs at the farmers market. So like he used his Bitcoin gains to buy a car. The butcher that we
Amazing.
hook up, there's a lot of Bitcoiners that like beef. He opened a
Mm.
whole restaurant with some of his Bitcoin gains. Like,
Wow.
that's what Bitcoin's for. It's to level up. Like the hodl for everything, that's a good use case as well. But it's also just like you hodl to like get yourself to a new place to maybe get yourself more useful to society, right?
Hmm.
Um, and that's happening. It's really cool, and it's this little spark of hope. It just feels so good to spend. It never loses its magic. Spending Bitcoin, it
Yeah.
never loses the magic. Every time I see that little check mark, it feels so good, like to support people with the right money. And
Amen.
yeah, I guess a little bit more details of how I do it. Like I also am paid 100% in Bitcoin now, and like once I get what I think is too much in my hot wallets on the phone, like I'll send it to the cold storage. And yeah, it's just this like you have a checking account,
Hmm.
savings account. And it's like that simple. And I'm also like to play with the whole eCash and Liquid and all the wallets. I did a video of spending Bitcoin at 21 different spots with
So
21 different Lightning wallets just because I'm autistic. But like, it's cool. Like this is the future we all want, right? This is what we're all here for, and it's
yeah.
cool to live it and to experiment with it and play with it and feel it because it feels
Mm.
good.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I wish I could speak more from experience. I mean, I have been able to, especially online, buy things with Bitcoin. And yeah, I remember the first time I bought, I believe it was like a T-shirt online, from using Bitcoin and using the Lightning Network. It's like this. It's kind of like you described it. Like it's hard to put to words that experience because I think we're so used to having to deal with banks and Visa and MasterCard and Amex and all these different organizations that end up, also taking cuts on top of your transaction. And sometimes it can be very complicated. And if you're spending internationally, how do you do that? And now I need to travel there, but then I need to convert some of this, all these
Yeah,
logistics that, come with spending fiat. And then you have this, universal currency in Bitcoin that's, you can send peer to peer, especially with the Lightning Network, without nearly any transaction fee. And it's just this experience, I think, that, is really hard to describe unless you've done it. And I think everybody,
yeah,
no matter if you're like living on a Bitcoin standard, or if you're just getting into Bitcoin, I think going through that exercise and kind of, I think your page also has a lot of examples of showing people the different options available. But being able to do that and actually spend Bitcoin through the Lightning wallet, I think also helps people to understand the revolutionary technology that it is.
yeah. I love we brought Laura's my wife's brother down here, and just like seeing his eyes light up when he spent Bitcoin, like wait a minute, what? This is real now. It's not just philosophy. It's not just books. It's not just podcasts. It's not just savings account. It's not just number go up. Like this is real. And I guess one other thing I wanted to share about Bitcoin Jungle too is now we have an office where people can go in, get hardware wallets, learn. Because like I said, boots on the ground is the most important thing. The podcast and stuff is great. Like it, strengthens convictions and you get to learn that way too. But the touching and the human to human experience is priceless. So now we have a
Yeah.
physical location where people can go in and learn. And we're having people from all over the country come there to learn. Because like, yeah, you hop on this custodial wallet. Maybe that's not super core, whatever, like not your keys, not your coins, but going not your keys, not your coins, going zero to self custody right away. Like, come on, guys,
Yeah.
that's not going to happen. Um,
Yeah.
so these custodians are bridges, and yeah, it's cool to have a place where we can teach people and get them more sovereign.
Yeah.
This whole thing.
I, that's amazing. And I think it's exactly like you mentioned, it's one thing, because I think I'm sure maybe a lot of the merchants are accepting Bitcoin because they see it as like a good way to accept payments, and maybe some of them are just automatically converting it back to the US dollar or the local currency. So I do think also, yeah, as you mentioned, the education part of it is super important too, because I think it's one thing to also use it. And I think most people typically tend to, especially in places like the US and Europe, like typically first, don't use it in that sense where it's like, I'm using it because someone is paying me in Bitcoin and now I don't know what to do with this. It's more like, okay, I'm buying it as investment because of number go up, or maybe I
Yeah,
did learn about it and now I want to invest a bit in it. But I think education part is so crucial because obviously Bitcoin is super volatile and Bitcoin goes up and down. And I think it's important that if you want to, do well in Bitcoin over the long term and see that also wealth accrue to you, that, you kind of have this educational background as well. And, in Bitcoin jungle there, is there, you mentioned that resource. As a local populace, would you say are most people pretty aware of not just like, okay, I know how to accept Bitcoin, but also the fundamental impact that it can have on their lives?
Not yet, but that happens slowly. That happens over years. I mean, as you
Yeah,
and I know, like, I don't know, I was on the sidelines for forever, just kind
yeah,
of consuming and holding and learning. And I had no idea I could play a role in this thing. And I'd encourage everybody to go to like meetups and start playing a role and learning and yeah, like meeting other humans, going to conferences and stuff. Like that's a critical piece instead of just being the closet. Like what I was like a closet maxi for a while,
yeah,
not contributing. But we all have a way to contribute to this thing. And I used to think Bitcoiners were scary. Like, oh, they're all so sovereign. They're all so jacked. They're also like, they're all such nerds, smart. Like, they're way smarter than me. Like, I could never, you know, be
yeah.
a part of this. But yeah, it does. It works on them slowly. And of course, as the number goes up, as their savings account goes up, might start, feeling it more. We also need more people to come down and spend it. So
Mm,
that's important too. And like, that was another thing I wanted to talk about for anybody who's newer to Bitcoin listening would be you don't start spending your Bitcoin until it just becomes more convenient for you. Um, so like I said, at an early time in my Bitcoin journey, I was like majority Bitcoin right away. So it's like at this point for me, it's more convenient
mm,
to just spend Bitcoin.
yeah,
Um, but that's not really the use case until you're like 100% Bitcoin, which I think is the end goal for the world that I want to see at least.
yeah. No, for sure. And another question on top of that, that I'm curious for your perspective from, because I think there's a lot of different thought trains at the moment in Bitcoin. One of them, of course, is the what you're doing in Bitcoin jungle, where it's like, okay, not hodl Bitcoin, but also use it as a means to pay for food to support yourself, like you said, to live on a Bitcoin standard. And then there's the other train of thought where it's maybe more like the Michael Saylors of the world, where it's like, no, just like um, get as much Bitcoin as you can, spend the fiat, or even, I mean, Sailor even like recommending people to get in debt and things like that. Um, how do you manage like, because when you're spending Bitcoin, especially when you know Bitcoin and the future potential that it has, one, how do you manage the volatility that's associated with Bitcoin? Because inherently, obviously, it's more volatile in the short term than like a dollar or a euro. And how do you also, um, yeah, manage that like long-term perspective versus like, okay, I want to spend this daily, but then I also know that I want to,
Well,
hodl this over the long term.
that's the beautiful thing is Bitcoin's like this measuring stick of what's important in your life. End of
Mm,
story. What's important? Yeah, that's it. Because every dollar you spend is an opportunity cost of buying Bitcoin.
hmm
Every dollar you spend, it's might as well be Bitcoin. So
Yeah.
when you see it that way, like what's important? Um, the little things like I'm still stacking. I'm no whale. My Cash App tag is future whale. I think we're all future whales, but
Yeah.
if we're in this early, um, but like, yeah, I like to stay light. We rent a house. I even rent a car. I was having a nice conversation with AI yesterday. Like, do I buy a car? Do I keep renting? Like, I love being so flexible and able to move anywhere. But this car, like every month, that's going to add up. But it's like this. I guess I pay a premium now for the flexibility I have in the future.
Mm,
Um, and then the volatility thing, it's all free now. I'm spending free money because my purchasing power has increased so much because I decided at an earlier age
mm.
to save in Bitcoin. Yes, it hurts still. I can't, get around that. Like, oh, great. Yeah. Now I got to pay rent the day the Bitcoin dropped 5%. Shit, but like it's all free. To really look at it that way. So,
Yeah.
and we'll all get there at a certain time,
Yeah.
if you start saving in Bitcoin.
Yeah. And actually, so last week I had a conversation with a founder in Europe. His name is Prashant from the company. I don't know if you're familiar with Bringin .xyz. They're mainly in Europe. I don't know
I
if
don't
you've
think
heard
so.
of the. Yeah, they're mainly like creating tools to facilitate living on a Bitcoin standard in like a fiat world, right? So they're especially in places where it's not widely accepted. By merchants yet. He's creating basically like Bitcoin on and off ramps to be able to
Good.
spend your Bitcoin without having to, well, with still being able to interact with the fiat world. And he said something really interesting, which was like, because I asked him about that too, because he earns his money in Bitcoin, he spends his Bitcoin, and I asked him about the volatility aspect because that's something also that I struggle with too. And as you mentioned, it's
Of
still,
course.
even though you're living on a Bitcoin standard, it's something that you struggle with because you're like, should I buy this now? Because then maybe, in X amount of time, Bitcoin will be this and then it'll only cost this. But he said something really interesting, which was like, when you take into account like Bitcoin's volatility on a day-to-day basis, like there may be days where it's down a certain amount of percentage or even weeks where it's down a certain amount of percentage, but he's like, because I use Bitcoin like in the long term and I'm always, spending Bitcoin, and Bitcoin in the long term tends up and to the right. It's like, even if there's days where it's down a certain percentage, there's also going to be days where it's up a certain percentage. And because the general trend line is up and to
Yes.
the right, your purchasing power is increasing, right? So for me, that was a pretty interesting way to visualize it, because I do think you get caught sometimes, or myself, when you think about spending Bitcoin about the day. Like, obviously, I'm not spending it in the quantity where I'm living off of it, but like for you, I can imagine since you're spending it every day, there may be days where it's down, but then there's also days where it's up a lot and your purchasing power increases
Yeah.
significantly.
There is a certain magic of spending Bitcoin at all-time highs, and I've had a few of those days lately. It's
Yeah,
like, dude, my eggs used to be this cost in Sats, and now it's this. That's
yeah,
the promise of Bitcoin. End of story. That's why we're here,
yeah,
right? It's
yeah.
amazing.
Exactly. Um, Outside of just the monetary aspect and obviously the purchasing power and the impacts that that has on your life, what would you say are some other ways that getting into Bitcoin and becoming a Bitcoiner has impacted your life in other ways?
Two ways. One, just the low time preference meme, like thinking long term with everything you do. That's really just like cemented into my soul now.
Hmm.
And that's when I ended up meeting my wife. Like, just, why would I spend a day with this person if I don't think I'd marry her in the future? And then, yeah, like everything, like we're having a kid anytime now. um, that's great. It's like cemented in. The second
Mm,
piece, how like Bitcoin changed my life was, might have touched on it before, was I met Bitcoiners in real life. So in 2021, I made this trip. I drove to Central America, and in the back of my head was like, I had no job or anything. I had these survival
mm,
jobs. In the back of my head, like the only thing I think I'd want to work on is Bitcoin or Bitcoin related something. Because like what else is just the most important thing. Like
yeah.
once you see it, you can't unsee it. So like I went to El Salvador and I spent 2 weeks there during the conference. And at this point I was so broke, like didn't even have enough money. I didn't like want to spend uh like to go to the conference because I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I was just kind of going. But I was like around the area. I was in Bitcoin Beach. I remember I drove to San Salvador where the conference was, and I was like, should I try to sneak in or should I just go buy one? Like I didn't even end up doing anything. I think I just went back to the beach. But I got to hang out with Bitcoiners. I met like John Vallis and this guy works at Cash App, Miles, and Michael, who used to work at Cash App. He's at Coinbase now. And I instantly just found humans that I wanted to be around. I don't know. Like they were deep thinkers. They were cool. And they just like got it. Like they understood. Like I was doing all this work trying to be an actor model in LA, and I don't know, I never connected with what felt like my tribe. And that first time I met a Bitcoiner, it was like, dude, what have I been doing? Like this is it. There's something here. Um, so that's another piece. And now like a lot of, I have really close friends who are Bitcoiners all around the world and working in the space full time with Primal now. Um, it's amazing what the power of this network.
Yeah.
and it's only
It
getting.
is. It is, and I can't agree with you more there. I think the Bitcoiners, at least now, especially because it's still relatively like true Bitcoiners, like Bitcoin maxis, I would say, is still a very small percentage of the population. I think obviously Bitcoiners, like there's more Bitcoiners now globally in terms of like people who, buy and hold Bitcoin. But I think people who have actually also done the work to understand Bitcoin at a deep fundamental level is still, yeah, a very small percentage of the population. And I think whenever I've been doing this podcast for a year and a half now, and every single person that I've had on the podcast has been, incredible. I haven't had a single bad experience with anybody in terms of just like how the conversation goes. The same kind of mm, principles and morals I think that draw people to Bitcoin and why people become essentially obsessed with Bitcoin is also, translates into people that are just good people and people that you can trust and be around. And so, hearing that also from your firsthand experience is really cool. And I'd love to also get into a bit the other aspect of what you're primarily working on right now, which is Primal, which is kind of like the social media aspect as well. Because I think, along with kind of getting into Bitcoin, you kind of learn more about self sovereignty, freedom, privacy tools, things like that, and of those freedom technologies, one of them that recently, surfaced not too long ago is a technology called Nostr. And so now you are working for Primal to kind of help spread that. So if you wouldn't mind just kind of giving my listeners a bit of an overview of kind of what it is that you're doing at Primal and how that's also in a way, shaping and contributing to your Bitcoin journey.
Yeah, so Primal, let's just frame it. Let's go a quick little Nostr overview. Is so Bitcoin, if you're familiar with Bitcoin, you get your private keys to money. If you're Nostr, it's like your private keys to speak online. So you own your identity and you don't have to ask for permission to post online to this diverse set of relays. So we have our speech back now. And Primal uses Nostr as a foundation to create this entire like social media experience. It looks a lot like Twitter, but you can also send each other Bitcoin because they're two open protocols that are basically married. They work together and they have this beautiful symbiosis. And guess what? A lot of Bitcoiners figured this thing out and think it's important, and that's who's bootstrapping this network that is still in its early days. So in 2008, Bitcoin chancellor on the brink of bailouts, right, was described or whatever in the first transaction or whatever that is. It happened in 2008. It's like this response from nature that gives us a better money. I think Nostr is like a response as well because of like censorship, because of the information being trapped and easily manipulated by big tech. Now we have this thing called Nostr where there's nobody that can manipulate the narrative anymore. And it's like slowly being built out, this entire ecosystem of apps on the Nostr network as just like this response to it's like the counter Orwellian future is what we're
Mm-hmm.
building. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's a lot of fun. It's really important, and it's like it goes deep. Everybody knows that social media is toxic. It's it's like maybe flawed from the beginning. I mean, it's got like the legacy platforms, they're dependent on ads. So that means they want to keep you on the screen as long as they can so they can shove you as many ads so you're the product. And now, with Nostr, there's all these different apps that you can use and none of them have ads yet. They may in the future, but we can take what we've learned from the legacy platforms and build products that aren't just going to be feeding on you, that make you the product. So yeah, it's exciting times.
It is, and I think it's fascinating as well because I'm a user. I wouldn't say I'm as active as I would like to be on Nostr because it's a new network, but I think it's something that whenever I'm on it, I can't describe the feeling. It's I mean, it's a very, I think it's almost analogous to like using fiat and using Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin is kind of this magical experience where you just feel great. And, you know, when you're dealing with stuff in fiat, it's comes with a lot of baggage and other things, and you don't always feel super great. Versus like my experience when I do, and I've been trying to do this more and more, is like, I feel like whenever I'm on Twitter or Instagram too much, it's, you just never, it's, you know, it's like you said, and you know, it's toxic for you. But with Nostr, it's this unique experience because, I mean, it's a social media, but at the same time, it's not like, I don't feel like I'm being targeted to kind of go on this doom scroll. Like I can be on Primal and in 10 minutes kind of be done and not, and also have consumed good information.
That's it. Like
Yeah.
social media, we want to make a product that makes it like you can spend the least amount of time on it so you can just go outside and enjoy your life. And you can
Yeah.
feel it after you spend more time on Primal on Nostr that the other apps are just crawling, just like grasping at you to get your attention at all times. I like to use the processed food analogy. Like, you know, legacy social media is just straight up seed oil and high fructose corn syrup processed junk food that's designed to addict you purposefully. Whereas Nostr is just organic, grass fed, raw milk. That's just healthy for you and it's organic. Like the way information is shared is completely organic. The algorithms are
Yeah.
opt-in. The Primal's algorithm, you can just go look at it. Like this is how you get to trending on Primal. And the algorithms and everything will evolve because algorithms are very useful. They help serve and discover information to people. And but you know, going into these black box algorithms like on TikTok, on Instagram, and Twitter, like we don't know why the information's there. It's just to serve the platform, to line their bags, to pump their bags. So
Yeah.
it's cool to have this emerging alternative that just feels more organic, and you don't feel like you wasted your time. You feel like you're intentional about the way you scroll, and I hope that continues. And it's like home. It's home for Bitcoiners right now. You go on Twitter, talk shit, and then you just come home and see what's actually going on, like what's real. Really, like fundamentally ask the question, what is the use of social media? Like I've I've been posting, I have all the platforms still because I got to share the word and everything, but it just really makes me question my behavior on other apps as well. And then it makes you like see through everything. These things you used to get like, you know, sucked into. It's like, dude, why are you doing that? Like you're trying too hard. Like you're literally creating your content for an algorithm, not just an audience. Where on Primal and Nostr, it's completely different. You're actually creating your content for just an audience. And how does that affect the way we create? How does it affect what we say? And one other example I want to give you is the other night, I thought of a fire tweet when I was surfing, and it's hilarious. It was like testosterone slash TRT slash steroids is like duck lips for men, like, you know, Botox, like plastic surgery for dudes that are insecure. And I wanted to go tweet that and I wanted to go put that on Nostr and it was hilarious. On Nostr, I was like, I can't just post that. I got to put a little nuance there. Whereas on Twitter, you would just post the most outrageous thing just to get as many eyeballs to you so you can see your little impressions go up and just so you can trigger people and so you can get trending on the algorithm. And it's the way it changes the way we think about content. And that's what I'm most excited about. Like, I also used to work for a really famous creator and the entire conversations that we had just turned into how are we serving the algorithm? How do we, and that's what you're forced to have from a marketing perspective is how do I get the most eyeballs on this thing? And for Nostr, our small little network, the way you get the most eyeballs is you actually pay people. You do this thing called zapvertising. So if you're not familiar with Nostr, you can send a zap, which is a micropayment of Bitcoin on each other's posts. And then you can include a little message and the top message is shown to everybody. So there's this concept called zapvertising where if you want to just like take over Nostr one day, you just go zap everybody and zaps are the easiest way into somebody's subconscious. Like somebody pays you, you see them and you go look at their profile. It's guaranteed. And it's so I can't wait for more people to figure this out and for the network to explode and like start doing this. It's like this wholesome way to get people's attention by actually paying them.
Yeah,
And everybody's
it
going to
is.
copy Zaps too. Like it's coming. You know, Rumble's
Yeah,
wallet, Twitter's obviously going to be have money integrated. So Should be fun.
Yeah, but I hope that, because the way that you said it was really well, where it's like with the other social media networks, the algorithm is kind of your master, and you notice it, like you said, people don't tweet based off of what they authentically want to tweet. It's like, no, I'm going to tweet because I think this will get, the most likes and the most impressions, and this will go viral. And especially lately, also with like some of the Bitcoin stuff, like usually what gets we
Pure
see it in the
slop.
Twitterverse feed. It's like the breaking
Yeah,
and then
it's
whatever
disgusting.
random stuff. Yeah, it is. And it's sad because like I know that there's so many good like thinkers in the space and people who genuinely want to put out good information, but oftentimes that's not rewarded in Twitter. It's more like kind of those things where it's like breaking this and Bitcoin's gonna go to this and price predictions and all this stuff. And it's just like you notice it when you're on there that it just affects you mentally as well, because you're like, what am I even, what am I reading
Oh, it's
even?
bad. Yeah, you hop off and you're like, oh, damn it. How much did I just spend? How much time did I just spend?
Yeah,
And do you know Gigi? Dir
yeah,
Gigi?
yeah, yeah.
He's Nostr only now, and I'm going to send you his talk. I got to go dig it up. I got to even
Okay.
listen to it again. I've listened to it like 3 times. This, you wouldn't zap a car crash. So what does that mean? Like social media right now, you see a car crash on the side of the road. You can't help but lend your eyeballs to it. You can't help it. Just like how Instagram, if you look at your popular page, for me, it's all baseball, surfing, and sometimes chicks. It's like, damn it. Because you can't, like, you accidentally get sucked in. And if you spend enough time looking at it, it's going to keep serving you that. And on Twitter, like, you see all these outrageous things just get into your timeline just because it's designed to steal your time because it needs you there.
Yeah,
But you wouldn't zap that. You wouldn't put your actual energy, your monetary energy behind that. You wouldn't send it money. And like now Zaps are part of Primal's algorithm. Like, and it's pure signal. It's pure, like, to me, it's like pure life force energy sent to a person. It's
yeah,
beautiful. Whereas likes are just informing an algorithm. Whereas time spent on a video is just informing an algorithm. Um, so it's this completely new behavior in social media. And yeah, it feels good. I zap way too much. I zapped. Well, I mean, I work for Primal. I love having people feel their first zap and feel what's different about the network. So it's like part of my job to zap, but no, I love it. And I have a theory that every zap you send comes back 10x. And
I love that.
one little, that theory come true was my wife and I posted our video of our gender reveal for our baby, and we got sent over $1,000 worth of Bitcoin
Wow,
for that post.
that's
Insane.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
amazing.
it feels so good. And then we posted the same video on Instagram and Twitter. We're just getting likes for like, this is bullshit. Even just like 2 sats, right?
Yeah,
And even in the future, millisats. It the potential is, I mean, this is what the internet's needed this whole time, is a native internet currency so that we don't have to monetize using just advertising, so we could come create like different ways to different products. Um,
yeah,
just like this ease of a native internet currency to send to each other. It's here.
yeah. It is, and I think that's the beauty of Nostr as well, is like the integratability with Bitcoin, where the Zaps that you're mentioning, you're directly sending people Bitcoin, and it incentivizes also people to to publish content. Like that's the thing. Also, when I'm on Nostr, it doesn't feel clickbaity at all. Like I feel like I'm there and I'm just learning, and it's like kind of what social media is also meant to be, because it's a communication tool, but at the same time, it's a way of transmitting valuable information. And like for me, Twitter had that, and then now
Right.
more and more it's just becoming this like algorithmic sludge where it's just like you kind of see the same patterns being, rewarded over again. Whereas like Nostr, when I'm on there, like, and I also scroll for 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, I've gone through my timeline or whatever, or the trending, and I'm done. I don't need to go into this like infinite doom scroll that whenever I scroll down, there's always new new information. And I think yeah, I think it's revolutionary. I think the one thing obviously with Nostr is like it's still very early days. So I think
Mhm.
I wish I wish I could just take the people that I follow on Twitter and put them all on Nostr, because obviously there's a lot of profiles that I follow on Twitter that do still give valuable information that aren't
Yeah.
on Nostr. So but I think, it's pretty early, right, with the invention of it. And I think there's a lot of proponents of it. Even Jack Dorsey is a big fan of Nostr. So how do you see like kind of that shaping going forward, like the next few years in terms of its adoption?
Oh, that's only what I think about and literally dream about and wake up thinking about all day. And we don't know. We're building the tools. Nostr, the fundamental breakthrough is, well, one, it's built on solid ground. You own your identity content. It's this distributed, decentralized thing. It's maybe how social media should have been, but the tech wasn't there back in the day, whatever. Um, but how will it play out? Nobody knows. Um, so far, like our marketing efforts, they don't necessarily do that great. There's something, they're creating the narrative. They're in your head, just Nostr, Nostr, Nostr. Little by little, it'll come true. But the biggest things that move the needles is just public events, like Telegram CEO getting arrested, TikTok being banned. Right now, this like age verification thing in the UK, I was just like researching that before, like just asking permission to post. And for some people, it's not going to be important. Like the Bitcoiners get it. Yeah. I don't want to have to ask permission to send money. I don't want to have to ask permission to have speech and content online. I want to be more sovereign and in control of where I post and who stores my media, all this, nerdy cypherpunk stuff. How do we get the masses? Two things. I think number go up is actually a great, um, marketing tool for Primal and Nostr in general, because, that crazy Bitcoiner guy, he's right. What else is he right about, Nostr? Oh, all the Bitcoiners are there? I need to learn about Bitcoin. Maybe we can make some tools within Primal to streamline that process. You get into Bitcoin, you're lost. You get into shitcoins, you're on Twitter, you're trying to figure out what to do. Maybe we can make a Primal like a real concise orange pilling tool. And that's another thing I'm fired up about. Like Primal, since you get a wallet in there, it's pretty easy to use and activate. You automatically have a use case for your Bitcoin right away to zap you in this new social media experience. And everybody's familiar with social media. And now, instead of just buying Bitcoin on exchange and having no use for it and just kind of watching it go up and down, yeah, you can actually use it right away and send it to your friends. And then it's Bitcoin Venmo as well built in too. Everybody has a Lightning address built in to their account, or attached to their account, that they can use. And now you can pay people back in Bitcoin without asking permission. It's actually really a handy tool, because like down here, I had a bunch of friends down. I had this Primal house idea where I wanted to take people down to the Bitcoin jungle and actually play with our decentralized everything apps and our decentralized money built in one. And yeah, this whole Bitcoin Venmo thing's awesome. Like, oh, bro, you just bought me some bananas. How much do I owe you? All right, I'll just zap you back for that. Like these little glimpses of the future that we're living down here. It's fun.
Yeah.
But we'll see who does our marketing for us. And it's our job to create the tools that make it easy for you to onboard your friends and onboard your friends. Because this is social media at the end of the day. You're not going to care if your friends aren't there. You're not going to care if like important people aren't there. But also just the fact that it feels good. That's an important data point. And I think more people are going to realize and feel when they start putting more energy towards Nostr that these other systems are really just parasitic on you. And I want it to be the place for nuance. I want it to be the place where you come like the old Twitter to get more wise, more like healthier, wealthier, and wiser. That's the top three things I want out of Primal and Nostr. So we'll see.
And
We're building the tool.
Yeah, it's an amazing mission, and I think because as we're also having this conversation, I'm also thinking about like just the vast potential of I think also like the creator economy, because I'm kind of in a situation now also where with this podcast and I'm trying to also make more educational content around Bitcoin, and obviously there's a lot of like free information and great resources out there, but then there's also a lot of thinkers and people in the space that also want to put their knowledge out there, but also maybe earn Bitcoin for that knowledge, right? And it's like, and even just thinking now out loud, like how like even the tools to maybe accept payments for certain things, like it's all still very fiat based. And also what's really cool about Nostr and Primal is like you could be a content creator, you could be an educator in the space, and either through directly being zapped for the information that you put on Primal, you could also the opportunities are endless. And I think it's also kind of around building this world that we want around exactly as you said, health, wealth, and happiness. And I think as Bitcoiners, we all inherently know that these technologies are the way towards that, but then we kind of have this the other demons, which is kind of like fiat money and social and all the traditional social medias and all of the pharmaceutical companies that kind of, not to go down to a deep rabbit hole now, but like they kind of get in the way of that. And so, yeah, I like Jeff Booth also has this quote where it's like,
Yeah.
you want to build the future that you want to live in.
Yeah, and just slowly porting your energy. I actually listened to your podcast with him, and I liked how he said it. If you spend 1% on Nostr now, just double it, 2%. Slowly just porting more of our energy towards these systems that we want to see, because for us, at the end of the day, it's going to determine whether it works out or not. Bitcoin too.
Yeah. Exactly. I couldn't agree more. And I think that's also the right mindset for people to have, just because it can be overwhelming, obviously, when you come into Bitcoin or even Nostr. They're new technologies, they're completely different ways of thinking. But yeah, just dedicate 1% of your time, then dedicate 2 and build it up slowly. And that also leads me, to my last question, because I know we're out of time. But because we have a lot of new people entering the space and because it can be, quite overwhelming for a lot of people, what general advice do you have for any, new person entering, well, either the Bitcoin space or even, the Nostr space?
Yeah, go at it with a sense of play. Just go play with your Bitcoins. Maybe a small amount at first. Yeah, but approaching everything with a sense of play. Nostr with a sense of play. Trying out a bunch of different apps on Nostr. And talking to your friends, and going to meetups, going to conferences, and just approaching it with humility and genuine curiosity, and just paying attention, and maybe you'll find a role in the whole thing as well.
Yeah. I love that. And I also want to say a big thank you to you and all you're doing in the space, not just Bitcoin. I think you're living that message of like building the future that you want to see, right? Not just in the way that you're dedicating your working time, but I think also, and I think I'll put, of course, your links to, because I think, obviously I also was looking at Instagram and stuff. And even though, we were just kind of talking bad about Instagram and Twitter, there's still tools to spread a message at this point. And I also recommend people to check out, your Instagram and your message on there and everything that you're trying to do, because it is spreading the right message. And I appreciate you for that and all the work that you're doing in the space.
Sweet. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. And if you do join Nostr, just tag me at Paul in the Jungle, and I'll see you, and I'll probably zap you. So
perfect. And I'll put all that in the show notes as well for my listeners. Paul, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure my listeners will get a lot of this episode.
Sweet. Thanks for having me.